Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And I don't have a whole lot of really structured topics for tonight because I want to talk more about kind of general, market, and not a ton's changed in the past 2 weeks, but there are a few things I want to highlight, and then we can kind of open it up for some group discussions, questions, whatever you guys may be dealing with or want to talk more about. And then we'll obviously do our regular goals updates like we do every 2 weeks. So raise your hand if it's your first time. Anybody first time in here? Awesome. Cool. And everyone else, welcome back, and thank you guys for coming. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been 2 weeks since our last call. Not a ton's changed in the market. The big news that had came out, I think, right before or between the calls was, the CPI for October, which was slightly better than expected. The Fed has announced that they're likely going to do a 50 basis point increase in December. So they're not having a Fed meeting in November. So we're not going to be rate increases this month for sure, because they're not meeting. And then they're meeting next month, and the projections are 50 basis points. So that actually dropped rates. For anyone who's not familiar, they usually, when you get a rate quote from a lender, they are actually projecting what your rate's going to be when you close. So typically they're looking at a 4 to 8 week futures rate. And so the fact that rates are now being projected to raise only by 50 basis points instead of 75, which was, the rate increase we've had the last 4 or 5 meetings, the projected futures rate went down 25 basis points, or a quarter of a point. So right now they're floating at around low 7s, 7.25, 7.33, somewhere in that range. So I guess it's slightly good news if you're buying, because it looks like the rate of increase will go down. We obviously don't have a clear picture as to when they'll peak or when they may potentially start, going back down. I mean, the projections I'm seeing are anywhere from 6 to 12 months for the peak, which could be anywhere from like 8 to 10% if they do keep increasing at even a 50 basis point rate. And, most people are saying within 12 to 24 months, they will slowly go back down. I haven't seen anybody projecting they're going to go back down to 3 or 4% or 2% like they were, but somewhere between that 4 and 6%, I guess, is what is considered the new normal. So that's obviously, what most buyers are looking to happen in the next 2 years or so, hopefully sooner. What this means, at least what I'm seeing on the buyer's side and the selling side in real estate, between retail and investors, is definitely a massive drop off in demand. So if you're a buyer, that's good news. There's not a ton of inventory out there, so it's not a massive shift to like a buyer's market, but that scale has definitely balanced more than it was the past couple of years. So that's the good news if you're buying. If you're selling, it's difficult. The things I'm seeing really successful on the sales side are areas that are in really good locations. So the stuff in the, high C's, B's, those areas, even multifamily or obviously retail, single family, those are moving really quick. If you were here on the past couple of calls, I probably talked about I'm in the middle of buying and selling a personal home. And I was able to, I think since the last call, listed my house, and we had like 5 offers in the first 2 days on market. So I'm in Milford, for anyone familiar with Cincinnati. And, Milford's one of those markets that's really competitive still. And you see a backlog of buyers from the past 2 years who haven't been able to find a home, who are still being relatively aggressive on trying to find a house. But again, it's kind of isolated to those better neighborhoods. A lot of the multifamily inventory that's sitting on the market, not moving right now, are the areas that are in, low C's, D areas. I think a lot of that buyer appetite has fallen off, because the past couple of years, you would buy anywhere. If you wanted to get a deal, you kind of had to buy anywhere, right? You kind of went where the deal was. Well, now buyers are able to be a lot more picky than they were, which is causing a compression in the motivation for people buying in lower income areas. So it creates opportunities across the board, I think, as a buyer. But obviously, you have to price in the fact that you're going to be dealing with a 7 to 8% interest rate. I know we touched on a little bit last call, where to me, I think flips and burrs are really high risk right now because you're kind of projecting a moving target. So even if your comps tell you a flip's worth 250 ARV today, if you go to sell it in 3 or 6 months, it could be worth 200, 225, could be worth 300. But the point is, we don't know, right? We really have no, measurable trajectory as to where prices are going. And back to my point a minute ago, if you're in a really good area in a good neighborhood and you get a great deal, I think you're at a pretty good spot with low risk, because the demand in those neighborhoods has not fallen off nearly as high or nearly as much. But if you're in one of those kind of, middle classified neighborhoods, you are in more risk if you need a short-term exit, whether that's, refining a burr or selling a flip. You have definitely more risk than being in the better neighborhoods right now.
Hey, Joe, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
On the retail side? I mean, I don't really pay attention to it too much, just kind of in my area, my neighborhood. Do you see kind of across the board, at least where I've seen some homes pop up, a lag in some of these sellers still starting off with crazy prices, thinking they're back in May,
Yes.
Yeah.
The short answer is yeah. So if I think right now, as an agent or as a seller, or a seller's agent, it's extremely important to price things correctly the first time, because the houses that, and this is across the board. So this is retail and investment property. If you are overpriced, you're going to sit, bottom line, because there's not a lot of motivated buyers out there. And it's always been the case. As a listing agent, I've always been one who wants to target a lower price point and try to drive up competition. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's extremely important. Like, I'm just making up a number, but let's just say your house is worth 300,000. That's what the comps tell us. That's what you think it's worth. That's what I think it's worth. That's something I would probably list at 279. That's where I would want to list that. Even though we all say on paper, we agree it's worth 300. You're a lot more likely to get 300 if you list at 279 than if you list at 300 or 315 or 325. Yeah. So, as an example, and I don't think a lot of agents are doing this,
I don't see it. And some of the houses that have popped up, I'm like, okay, I can see that, like I said, in May, but I'm thinking like right now they're like 30, 50 grand over, and that's just me, I'm not seeing, the numbers like you are. So
it's so, and there's a lot of factors that go into buyer demand, right? Yeah. So like right now, sellers are having to put a product on market that is relatively turnkey. Like the things that are sitting are priced incorrectly, or they need updates, or they need repairs. There's deferred maintenance. And again, this is across the board. This is retail, investment property. Like a year ago, you could put up a house in any condition and you're going to get 10 offers. That's not the case right now. The houses that are really well kept, they're marketed really well, you have really good photos, those are the houses that are getting a lot of attention. And again, obviously, the better the area, the faster it will sell and more offers. But, it's a good thing in the sense, I think it's really cleaning out the market. A lot of the bad agents are going away. So, that's a good thing for buyers in all different markets, because I don't know what the most recent number is, but I know at the peak of the market, let's say 9 months ago, there was like 6,800 licensed agents in the Cincinnati MLS. The last time I checked, that was already down 1,000 agents. So 1,000 agents had already sent their license to, they call, like, you put your license in escrow, meaning that you're not active. So you don't have to pay all the fees and all that stuff. But when I got my license 6-7 years ago, there was only like 4,000 agents. So that shows you how it's almost doubled in 6 years. And that's just because you have a real estate license doesn't mean you're actually selling. Appraisers have it. There's a lot of licenses that go into the MLS, but still that number is quickly dropping off. And I think that's a good thing, because it gets rid of a lot of the agents who might sell one house a year. It gets rid of the agents who don't really know what they're doing. And I think, so like some of my agent groups I'm in, I've talked about this. It's like, if a lot of agents will take a listing just to list it, and they don't care what, they basically don't care if it sells. And I see a lot of that happening where, if I go to listing appointment, I say your house worth 300, let's list it at 279. They're going to go in and say, I think your house worth 350 if you give me the listing. And then they're listing it and they're not selling. So, I think this is going to continue. We're obviously getting right into the middle of the holidays and the winter where it's already seasonally slow. I mean, that's happened the last 5 years. I mean, there's been a slowdown in the holidays and then the winter time. So you compound that with rising rates and a lack of seller and buyer motivation. There's just not a whole lot moving. Another thing that's interesting, if you guys, get sent off market leads, I think off market leads right now are worse than they've ever been. And what I mean by that is most of those sellers, whether they're wholesalers or a, direct to seller, are still not realistic about price, but they're also getting less offers because they're not, going to market, and there's still super low buyer demand, right? So like, let's say you're a wholesaler and you're putting properties under contract, unless it is a legitimate, like, home run type of deal, the reason why it's off market is probably because it needs a ton of work or it's in a bad area, right? I mean, I'm sure, raise your hand if you're on a wholesaler list or wholesalers list in this chat. I mean, you probably see all the garbage that's out there, right? 99% of it that I look through is stuff I wouldn't buy in any market, but certainly not, with rates at 7%, 8%. So I think it's interesting where the shift is going to go back to where the MLS and agent listed properties are actually going to be better deals in the long run, because things hopefully will get priced correctly through the market. And once it's been sitting on the market for 60, 90 days, if you were buying real estate 10 years ago, you know what I'm talking about. There's so much, room there if the seller's serious about selling. You're going to be able to get significant discounts versus off market deals. At least in my opinion, that's what I see happening already. And I think it's going to get skewed more and more in that direction. But like I said, that's kind of what I'm seeing, and it hasn't shifted a whole lot in the last 2 weeks. So a lot of the stuff we covered is very similar. I think as we get into the holidays and winter, it's going to continue to slow down. And what I've seen, at least the last 6-7 years, January, it's like things start picking back up and you get back into that new spring market for the new year. I don't know how big of an uptick we'll have with the way things are, but I think it'll be more moving, more inventory, more buyers than we have, in November and December. So yeah, any questions about the market, current events, anything like that you guys want to cover?
Joe, the one comment that I was going to make is I follow the stock market and a lot of these tech companies out west, specifically California, that are starting to lay off a lot of their employees, right? And the one thing that I've noticed as I have been looking around, and when I look at county records, I've noticed a lot of out-of-state money, right? A lot of California buyers, right? And I wonder if we are going to see some of those properties, be up for sale within the next few months as people lose their jobs, or maybe they're over leveraged, or maybe they have a lot of exposure to crypto. I don't know. But I've been thinking about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, I can tell you from firsthand experience that probably half of my business in the last 6 years has been out-of-state investors. So you're talking, I don't know the exact number, but let's say 50 to 75 properties, somewhere in that range at least, that have been sold to out-of-state investors just through me as one agent. So that's obviously thousands and thousands of units, in the last 5 years throughout the whole market. And I think you might see some of that. But unless they bought in the last 6 months to a year, they probably have a pretty good chunk of equity, and they're probably cash flowing. I know most of the deals that I sold were cash flowing deals. So it's like, I don't see a huge drop off in that, because if the deal's cash flowing, then they're probably going to hold on to it, especially if they can't get out of it, with some equity. So I don't see that being a huge source of demand. But what's interesting about the jobs market, and this obviously is not super real estate necessarily focused, but I've talked about this in the past, but you see this hierarchy when it comes to jobs, right? And the prime example I'm going to make here is that, like, if you go to Walmart this holiday season for shopping or something, all their seasonal employees are like fully staffed. Like, it's shocking to me. Like, every register's open. There's like 20 people on the registers. Every department has like 2 or 3 people working. The last 2 years with COVID, that did not exist. Like, if anyone went shopping physically in person the last 2 years, you've probably seen this, but there was nobody there working. And what's interesting to me is, as all these people from, like, tech and S&P 500 type of jobs are getting laid off, that's a trickle down effect. And what I mean by that is, like, you might have your people with, master's or bachelor's degrees going back into some of the other more corporate type of jobs. Some of the corporate people might be shifting down into, regular, like, small business employment, or, maybe even blue collar type of trades potentially, if they can't find a job. And then you have people who might have been with no experience and no skills working in like blue collar jobs, shifting down into the, kind of standard minimum wage or retail or restaurants, all the things that have been short staffed. And I think this is kind of a progressive effect that happens. And I think the labor market is going to continue to shift to a more employer favored position, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this in your day-to-day lives, but that was something that was kind of interesting to me, was like, going to Target or Walmart the last 2 years versus this year, I could already see they actually have employees, which was like, holy crap, like, this is shocking to me. So I think it'll be interesting how that dynamic could affect the real estate market, affect the tenant bases, as people lose income and kind of downgrade. And what's crazy, if you're paying attention to like the federal government and what they're doing, this is what they want. They want the labor market to shift. They want deflation in the labor market, which is hilarious. I don't want to get political, but it's like, they run on this platform of like, well, we want to raise wages and we want everyone to make more money and all this stuff. But it's like, that's not what the Fed's doing at all. Like, if you ask yourself, well, why is the Fed raising rates? Who does that affect? That affects
destroy demand, right?
That affects job growth. That affects the businesses and banks' ability to borrow money. It obviously it has a direct effect on real estate, but more so than its effect on real estate, it affects businesses, big and small, which means they're going to downsize and they cannot continue to grow. So anyway, the point of all that is, I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we could see a lot more balanced labor market, where the last 2 years has been extremely employee favored. And I think it's going to shift back to more in favor of businesses. And again, I think that will have an impact on every facet of our economy, because, let's say you had a tenant who could afford $1,200 a month in rent. Well, if they get laid off, or they have to go take a lower paying job, or their actual position within their own company gets restructured and they make less money, which I think is possible. If we have a massive recession, wages could go down. So unfortunately, I think that's what the Fed wants. I think they want deflation right now. And the only way to get that is by reducing wages, reducing spending, reducing demand. And it's a cumulative effect on the market. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. What other questions you guys got?
That was an interesting insight. And hello, can you guys hear me this time?
Yeah,
Last time
yeah.
nobody could hear me.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. No, what you said about the West Coast thing, because I was one of those tech people out there in the West Coast, worked at Amazon, then at Facebook, left Facebook about 10 months or so ago. And I think just as a facet of like lifestyle investing, I would love to have like a 7-8 unit back out in Seattle, but every time I look at like the policies and like the laws they're passing, and not that anybody cares, but I probably lean more left. To me, it's even shocking. It's like you have to give someone 6 months notice to like raise rent by more than 3%, right? Or if you raise it, I think by more than 10%, then you're paying and helping their move out fees.
Wow.
I saw in San Francisco that if you get a legal eviction, you're still now paying their move out fees and maybe their first month's rent at their next place. And so as like a West Coast high earner, I could definitely see, no matter what happens, if you're buying in Indy or Cincinnati or whatever, it seems like your chances of getting paid there in the Midwest or being able to evict somebody who's not paying, that has a certain benefit. Whereas, the West Coast politicians, it's like if we go into COVID 2.0 or whatever, they could just declare to the moratorium and, you're just SOL.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I mean, there's obviously a lot of reasons why people on the coast invest in cheaper markets, southwest, or Midwest. I don't think it's all, politics, but I think that is definitely an impact. It has a major impact on motivation. I mean, I know a lot of my clients have specifically said, "Hey, I'm not buying in any, blue states where I can't evict somebody, or they're not going to have to pay rent." So yeah, I think that definitely has an impact on people. And here in Ohio, our spectrum is like, as far as like compared to nationally, like a little bit liberal to like extremely landlord friendly. You know what I mean? It's like it's not that big of a margin difference. Like here in Cincinnati, the metro city limits have a few extra layers of rules that the state doesn't follow. But compared to what I've seen across the country, as far as tenant friendly laws, it's nothing even remotely close to the things that they've implemented. So yeah, I think that does drive a lot of investor money to the Midwest and the Southeast and things like that. Anybody got any other questions? Anything they want to bring up?
Hey, Joe, do you mind if I circle back like you to
Yep.
that's the point of the sellers with kind of unrealistic perspectives still?
Yep, sure.
As an agent, how do you deal with that? If you have somebody that's telling you they still want to list it, those prices in May versus now, and like you said, typically you want to list under what your top is, so now you have to deal with bringing them down to what you think your top is, and then also a little bit under. Like, how do you approach that?
Well, I mean, there's several aspects to it, but I can say personally, one, I am brutally honest with my clients. I tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And because of that, a lot of times I don't get, the listing, because I'm going to tell them what I believe to be true. And they may not like that. They may want to go with the agent that's going to tell them what they want to hear. I will say that I have listed at or above market value in a few occasions, but it's always with a specific agreement of, look, let's use that same number we just used. I think your house is worth 300. I think we should list it 279, 289, whatever that may be. And they want to list it 315, right? I tell them, look, I don't agree with you. I don't think it's going to sell for that. I hope I'm wrong, but I will list it at whatever it is, 315 or 300 or whatever. But if we don't have, 10 showings and one offer in 7 or 14 days or whatever the agreement is, then we're taking it to this price. And if they're like, no, I'm not doing that, then I'm not the agent for them,
I gotcha.
And I think it's
Makes
important.
sense.
I think it's important for agents to, one thing I've seen with agents that even before I was an agent, and it always kind of, and I think a lot of people get this kind of like sour taste in their mouth sometimes working with agents, is that the agents who don't do a lot of business or have no other income are sometimes really desperate to make a sale because that's how they pay their bills or feed their kids or whatever. But unfortunately, that puts them in positions where they sometimes have to kind of do unethical things, in my opinion. And what I mean by unethical is maybe even just simply saying, oh yeah, your house is worth 325 all day long, sign here, right?
Yeah,
Knowing
just to get
full
the
and well,
signature.
they're probably not going to sell that house, or it's going to take 3 months and they're going to have to drop the price 5 times. And they know in their mind they're going to sell it at 275, but they're going to tell you 325 because they really want that listing and they really need that money. So I've been fortunate, and I know not a lot of agents are in that position, but I've either always had another full-time job, another business, or had enough rental income that if I don't make a listing or I don't make a sale, I'm going to be just fine. You know what I mean? And I think that being able to work from a position of strength in that sense has helped me not have to do anything unethical, not be desperate. But again, I'm not knocking these agents. A lot of them, that's all they can do to feed their family. So whether I agree with it or not, it's kind of on them. But anyway, yeah, that's the conversation I've had with a lot of sellers.
Gotcha. Appreciate it.
What would you advise, Joe? Because I've seen a few of these listings. I'm, looking at like 8 to 15 units, and I've seen a lot that were on market, didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's better for me to go through my agent and re-engage them? Or is it better maybe just to go right to the seller? I mean, right to the owner, because maybe they're pissed off with, these expectations. They just want to get a deal done.
So they're like expired listings?
Exactly. That they delisted them after they didn't sell.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean, so if you can get in touch with the seller, you may be better off going direct to seller. If your agent may have a relationship with that listing agent who can then put them in touch with the seller, that would be an angle that may be worth working through your agent with. I think it would just depend on the situation. But I found that expired listings are tough for agents or direct to seller, because a lot of times if they fired their agent and they took it down, they're probably pissed off and they don't want to deal with an agent. You know what I mean? But sometimes, you get lucky and they find the right buyer, the right agent. And, it's like, there's an old saying, it's like, I'm trying to remember what it is. Something like, nobody loves their second agent more than something or whatever. It basically means like, the first one sucks so bad, they love their second one, implicitly kind of thing. So I don't know whether that's true or not, but I would probably work both angles, meaning agent to listing agent and you direct to seller. And then whatever gets traction first, roll with it.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to post our questions here for anyone who hasn't seen them. So if you want to pull up your the chat, you'll be able to see these. And we'll go through our group discussion here. All right, so you should be able to see that. So let's start with the first time members. So Gage, if you want to start us off, you're going to do this first set of questions.
Gotcha. And I'm on my phone, so
Oh, you're good.
I don't think I can see.
Oh, you can't see the chat?
See you guys in the chat, but
Okay. Well, I can.
okay.
If you need me to read them to you, I can. Let me know.
Yeah, I got it. First off, I just want to thank Angelo for inviting me to this. But my name is Gage Pace. I am located in Batesville, Indiana. I don't know if you guys really know where that's at, but it's a small town in Indiana, about an hour out of Cincy on I-74, heading up towards Indianapolis. What markets am I investing in or researching? Multifamily, as in like duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. It's kind of what I'm looking into right now. Years of investing. So I just currently got started. I bought the duplex that I'm actually sitting in right now in April of this year. So very, very new, and very appreciative of this opportunity to learn from you guys here and girls. So yeah, I've got a duplex. That's it for right now. Short term, and this house, by the way, I think it was built in like 1900, so it's an older home. Short term investment goals. So I moved into this house. I was trying to rehab it from my parents' house. I'm 26 years old, just turned 26. Realized that wasn't going to work. So I moved in July, started doing rehabs on it, and with the goal of getting the bottom unit done, moving into the top, which I'm in the top now, renting out the bottom unit, getting this top one rehabbed, and then moving out and getting burring into another one. So my short-term investment goals in the next 6 months, I would like to get a bigger unit for my next one. So I'm looking at a triplex or a fourplex possibly to burn into, and I'd like to be more in the Cincinnati region and work my way in. I work in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, so I'd like to get closer to that at least. Long-term investment goals. So I have a 30, by the time I'm 30 years old, I would like to have 10 properties. That's just kind of my number. But in all reality, I would like to make around $300,000 a year in passive income. So however many properties it takes to get to that. And what do I hope to get from this group? Wisdom, knowledge, advice, and people that can, one thing that I talked to Angelo about that I don't currently really have in my life right now is people to hold me accountable to these goals. So yeah, that's it.
That's awesome, man. Congrats on your first property and your goal for the 300K in cash flow yearly. So I'm gonna ask you some questions. I don't know if you've done this or not, but this is an exercise that I did 6-7 years ago that I found really helpful. So, and you don't necessarily have to share this, but just if you don't know the answer, just think about it. How much would you have to invest per year to get to that number? So, so you said you're 26, so you got like, let's say 4 or 5 years, right, to hit that number. How much would you have to invest? Meaning, how many properties would you have to buy? How are you going to come up with that money? How many units is that? How much cash flow per door? If those aren't things you haven't worked out or mapped out, then I would definitely do that. And maybe, maybe next meeting when you come back, you'll be able to kind of walk us through that. I think that would be a cool exercise to see somebody play out for us. But anyone in this group, if you haven't done that, it's definitely something I recommend. So I did the exact same thing. For me, my first goal was 4,000 a month in net cash flow. And to do that, I knew I needed 20 doors at 20 doors at 200 a door. That's my buying metric. And I knew that at the time, let's say it was 40,000 a unit. So that was going to be, whatever it was at 800,000, whatever it was, that I had all that worked out. I remember I had it on like a little half a piece of paper, and I kept that paper. I took that paper around for like a year. And that helped me buy my first few properties and work backwards with those metrics in mind. Now, obviously, those numbers have shifted over the years. You can't really buy multifamily in Cincinnati for 40,000 a door anymore like you could back in 2015, 2016. But it gave me a starting point to work from. So, yeah, if you haven't done that, definitely work on that. I'd be interested to see what you come up with next time.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Sandra, you want to go next?
Dreaded mute button. My name is Sandra Morrison. I go by Sandy. I'm currently in Florida because I can work from anywhere, but I'm based in Cincinnati. We've been here about a month. What markets I'm investing or researching? I'm looking into Kentucky, and I'm still interested in Cincinnati, the university. I have student rentals in the university. I have short-term rental in Kentucky and one in Florida. And I do the type of investments I do: student rentals, I do Airbnbs, I do private lending. That's it. Right now, that's all that's coming to mind. My short-term investment goals. I want to buy another small multifamily or a bigger multifamily, and then a bigger multifamily in 1 to 5 years, or men. But this group, I hope to network and continue learning. I've been doing this. I grew up in a 4-family. My parents house hacked. My husband and I started with a 2-family. We house hacked in 1994. And then when we had our kids are a year apart, so then we got out of rental property. And then only since 2015 have I got back in and trying to get more educated in it. And is that it? Wins or lessons to share since last meeting?
Yeah, that's for when you come back.
Oh,
The
okay.
second group. Yep. So
right.
I do have one follow-up question. So when you say I want to buy a bigger multifamily property in 1 to 5 years, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like bigger.
Like 100 units, 150 units?
20, 50, 100, something bigger that I'm not managing myself,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Something that could sustain a like on-site manager or something like that. Gotcha.
Yeah, or something that already has plan. I'm also interested in, I forgot about this part, RV parks and campgrounds. And a tiny home kind of, I want to do that. I'm trying to get learn up on that kind of stuff. We have camped and used RVs and that kind of thing. So we know it from that perspective, but I don't know enough about how to have set up what's required to get one set up. I'd prefer to buy one that's already existing, but versus set one up. But that's one of my I think it'd be a great growing experience. I think you get into this business and you start out, like I was really into student rentals, and I learned everything I could about student rentals. And then I didn't really want to do Airbnbs, but my husband was more interested in that. It's definitely more sexy than student rentals. So I learned more about that, and now I'm like, okay, now what's another new thing? What else can I do? So I do think, and I think your goal is to become kind of a transaction engineer. Like you see something and you don't sit there and say, this is my whole, and how does it, it doesn't fit into my little plan, but what can I do with it? So I want to get to that point. And I'm just kind of, I got enough knowledge to be dangerous at this point, and I want to be a little more dialed in before I do an RV park.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, I was the same way. I started, and I think I've told the story probably in this group, but it's like I was looking in 0.8 square miles in the city of Deer Park, which is where I was a cop at the time. And like that was it. Like I wanted to buy there. That was the only place I felt safe. That was the only place I felt comfortable. And then I quickly realized that if I want to scale and continue buying more, adding to my portfolio, I had to expand not only my area, but my knowledge base, what types of deals I was willing to do. And I think for new investors, it's really important to focus on something and get good at it. Like Sandy was saying, where she was all in on student rentals for how many years. I know it was a long, you were in that space for a long time. So but once you get good at something, you kind of get that foundation built underneath you. Then not only from a risk standpoint are you willing to take on more, or should you be willing to take on more, but hopefully at that point, as you get older and make more money and grow your investments, then you'll be in a better financial place where you're able to take more risk as well. I mean, there's definitely a massive factor. If you're a first or second time investor, you don't want to do anything super high risk where you can wipe yourself out and have to start over. So yeah,
right. I think people see the HGTVs, or they see the and that stuff is a lot sexier than wholesaling or doing things that are less risk in the beginning for long-term rentals, that kind of stuff. So and now it's even riskier because your prices aren't going up as fast, your interest rates are going up fast. So those kind of things where you have a timing issue can be, and you're trying to sell real estate, does somebody like the house that you remodeled? It's a little harder.
We talked about this a couple of calls ago, but like I think all the people who were into real estate the last few years as like a fad are going to quickly be washed out, and it's going to be the people who are here for long-term wealth generation. They're playing the long game. Those are the people I think that are going to make it in this business and sustain themselves for the next 5, 10, 50 years, however long they want to be in it. But yeah, all the people who were jumping in trying to do like Airbnb arbitrage, I've quickly seen those people, drop out of a lot of the mastermind groups I was in.
Mhm. Yeah, I still get people tell me that, it's real estate's so risky. There, it's back to that versus uh, before I would hit a short period where people are like, "What are you doing? That sounds really cool. I want to get," now it's back to, "Oh no,
Yeah.
no, no."
Well, that's good. I think that's a good thing for the industry, really.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Colby, are you here?
Oh, I see a shadow.
Colby, if you're ready, this first set of questions, that's where you're at. Oh, cannot hear you now. Nobody. Nope. All right. Well, you work on that, and we'll go to Todd. Todd, if you want to start us off on the second one, if you want to add your name for anyone who wasn't here as well, obviously they should be able to see it, but feel free to open with that. And then if you're returning, we're gonna start on that second set of questions.
Sure. Hi, Todd Kelsey, located in Cincinnati, returner. So I'll just talk about the goals. I posted, I'm currently in classes to get my agent's license, and one of my goals was to set up a study schedule, which I've done, and I've tried to adhere to that 90% of the time. Life's just crazy. But been doing good on that, talking to different brokerages. And kind of my big goal was to meet with 2 veteran agents, which I was able to do, and would like to continue to do that, to glean some knowledge there. Joe, appreciate your insight tonight on my questions on that. No current needs from the group. Just welcome to the new people, and just appreciate it. And thanks to Joe as always, and everybody for showing up and sharing their experiences, because I always love to hear what other people are doing, tips, tricks, just general knowledge, whether you're new or old in the business, whatever you've done, always open and like to hear and give feedback and get feedback. So thanks.
Anything on the investment front? You look at any properties, make any offers?
I have not. No, it's really focusing on the agent stuff right now. I still keep tabs on, I think last time I mentioned, kind of the area that I'm looking for my next purchase is up in kind of the Lebanon, Waynesville area, north of the city of Cincinnati. And that's where I think I'm going to look for our next investment. So I just kind of keep tabs on that, but nothing serious right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Colby, you want to try again? No. We heard you earlier. That's odd. Is that things your headphones are dead or something? Okay. Angelo, you want to do the follow-up?
Yep. So I think that I've met pretty much everybody either in person or virtually, except Sandy. Good meeting you. Glad you were able to join us. Angelo Solari, Cincinnati area. I'm new to real estate, so I don't have any investment properties yet, right? So as far as my monthly goals right now is to keep looking for those deals. I'm trying to underwrite as many deals as I can on a monthly basis. I'm targeting about 25 to 30. So pretty much one a day that I try to underwrite. I was underwriting a lot more when I first got started. Now I'm at a point where I look at one and I know it's not going to make any sense. So I don't even bother, right? So I guess that's been really, really helpful from a learning experience. As far as my most important next steps is to get that property under contract, right? I'm looking specifically for a small multifamily, 2 to 4 units, and I would like to house hack it. That way, move out of my primary residence and rent it out. It's located in the Florence, Kentucky area by the Cincinnati airport. Should be able to make it cash flow nicely. Got it back in late 2016. As far as current needs from the group, nothing really specifically. Again, of course, accountability and keep learning from each other. So again, also appreciate you guys joining us every other week. And as far as any wins, actually it's been more than a couple of weeks now, but and I think that Joe, you might have brought this up a couple of meetings ago, and it might have been one of the face-to-face meetups. But my girl and I have been really trying to get our names out there, making sure that people that know us, people that we work with, know that we are interested in real estate and buying property. So we've been putting the word out there. And a few weeks ago, we were able to generate an off-market lead. It was overpriced, but the bottom line is that we got our name out there. And somebody said, oh yeah, I know someone that's interested, put us in contact, looked at a deal, etc. Right? But that was a win for us. And I would encourage everybody to get your name out there, keep networking, keep it in front of people, whatever you use, social media, Snapchat, whatever, just get the word out there. Personally, I work at P&G, and what I do, we have one of these like bulletin boards, and I'm just like writing things up like, hey, I'm looking for properties. And I had a couple of people actually contact me that way as well. Nothing has worked out yet, but we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good tip.
Nice.
TV, you had your hand up. You want to do something you want to add?
No, I'm just giving you a thumbs up on the
Oh,
win.
nice.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. And if, you know, like I said, I mean, I know I've met most of you, and I'm a big proponent of that. I've a couple of my off-market deals I bought early in my investing was through just telling anyone who would listen, hey, I'm looking for this type of property, or hey, if you know anyone selling, you know, small multifamily or whatever it was at the time, like, please give them my number or have them call me, or you call me and I'll get their number, whatever. To the point where I was annoying most of the people that I know, but you have to be persistent if you want to succeed. So, all right, Jake, you're up.
Hey all, I'm out of Cincinnati. Currently do not have any properties besides my primary. I am currently investing, running numbers, working with Joe on this. I will be out of town, so I can't really do too much, but I am running numbers. My next step really is get a property under contract, multifamily of some kind, no later than April. I'm going to put up my primary for rental, so that will be good. There are currently no needs from the group that I have. Really, the wins are that I'm really starting to understand the numbers more, really getting into more in-depth, understanding the markets, understanding, you know, ROI more on the effort you put into it, the money, the rehabs, all that kind of stuff. That's really what I'm learning more of. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Tiwi, you're up.
Hey, everybody. Tiwi, my second time coming back to the group. A few of my monthly goals. Oh, I'm in the Cincinnati area, by the way. I'm in Hyde Park. So I had a monthly goal just to reach out to 3 new people every 2 weeks or so. I've been in the real estate space for about 2 years, but hadn't really been out there networking with people. So I've been trying to take action on that. Another goal I had is to finish renovating the last 2 units in my 10 unit in Norwood. I want to do that before the end of 2022. And more of a recent goal I've picked up is just to kind of narrow in on kind of an adjacent business I'd like to do kind of in the real estate space. I've heard Joe and a lot of other people on podcasts and just seen, practically speaking, a lot of people, you know, start several businesses in real estate. And I think that kind of alleviates the pressure to always have a deal. So I'm thinking about what I could do. That's also in the real estate space. And the other last goal was to refinance my 10 unit after I renovate that. So progress on those goals, I think I'll give myself like a B+ on the networking. I'm doing a better job of that. You know, met Joe, met a broker named Gara the other day, reached out to John Kasman, who has a great podcast on multifamily, had coffee with him last week. He actually did a great interview with Joe. You guys should go check that one out, Multifamily Insights. That was a really good episode.
It's on my Facebook and Instagram if anybody wants to link to.
What's the podcast called?
I think it's
Multifamily
called
insights.
multifamily.
Yeah.
Multifamily.
Multifamily insights. Yeah. With John
Multifamily
Castman. Yeah. Yeah, I can probably find the link. I just had it.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. Glad I'm doing that more. People are really approachable in general. So that's really great to see. On the other progress, I think I'm on track to finish renovating these 2 units by December 15th. Not sure about getting them leased in December when everyone's doing Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever they celebrate, but we'll see. I think I've been able to eliminate things that I don't want to do in real estate kind of off my list. Like I know you can always be an agent, you can be a property manager, you can be a contractor. Those are kind of off my list. I'm kind of looking to see what else I'd like to do besides those that I feel more passionate about. And I'm networking with loan brokers on what sort of DSCR, debt service coverage ratio loans I can look into for my refi. I think that's kind of the product I'll have to get, given that I didn't roll my renovation costs into my initial bridge loan. That was kind of a learning. I just tried to kind of cash flow it myself. And so that kind of tanked my credit score because I used some lines of credit to finance that. So, which brings me to the last section, my needs. If you know of any good loan brokers who can help with refinance, I'd appreciate the referral. I think
let me post one in the group.
that would be awesome. Thanks, Joe. I started looking a bit early when I had like half the building renovated, and I think that's right when interest rates ticked up. So people really want to see me at 90% occupancy, which, knock on wood, hopefully I'll be there in January or December. Yeah, so that's where I am.
Yeah, so I posted a link for that interview. Thank you for that shout out. And if anyone hasn't checked out John Castman and his Multifamily Insights show, it's really, really good. I recommend you subscribe to that. That was my first time on his show, but I've known John for several years. He's a really good dude. Kurt Wheel is a loan broker. So if you're looking at anything 5+ units, Kurt is a great contact. He's based in Cincinnati. I think he can do loans like all over though. So even if you're not buying in Cincinnati, he can help you out. But his number is in the chat there as well. And he's great. He's helped me get a couple really, really good loans, even in this market we're in. So I highly recommend that, working with him. And if for anyone who doesn't know, so the way loan brokers work, and brokers of all kinds outside of real estate, but like insurance broker, loan brokers, the reason why I prefer them over like a bank or a credit union, or like in the insurance world dealing with like State Farm or an insurance company, is because a broker can shop you as a customer to 10, 20 different entities. So like if you're trying to get a loan, they'll go shop you and your project to 10 or 20 banks or lenders to get you the best deal. Same with your insurance. If you get a good insurance broker, they're going to shop your policy to 10 or 20 carriers and get you the best insurance policy. So something I learned in this business, I highly recommend working with brokers in that arena. All right, Colby, you want to try one more time? Were you able to get it working, or? I still got nothing. Nothing. All right. Well, we'll get you next time. I appreciate you coming. Hopefully you were able to get some value out of it, and we'll definitely get you next time. All right, guys. So we're about an hour. We got a few more minutes if you want to hang out. Was there any other questions that you guys had about anything we talked about tonight that you want to cover?
I have a question, but it doesn't have to do with the market. It's just in general.
Yeah, anything. Go ahead.
While we have this group of people here, it would probably be faster just to type the answer in the chat for each person. But I'm a big reader. I enjoy reading. So any books that you guys that have been, either life-changing or just big aha moments or something, that any book that, has just been good to read or that you would recommend for someone like me would be great. There we go. People already throwing them in. And then podcasts.
Are you looking specifically real estate or just like business?
Somebody said Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, real estate, business, personal development, motivation.
Okay.
I like it all. I think Angelo said Think and Grow Rich. It's my second time reading it. This is my first Mastermind, and it's funny because I was reading it and I realized that I think he coined the term mastermind
That was
Uh,
back.
in
That was
this
back in
book.
1937.
in the
Right.
1930s, right? Yeah. So I thought that was really cool because I was
Power
just
of the
on the
mastermind,
pages.
man. Yep.
You know, it'd be
Yeah.
interesting. See what you guys think about this, because what I've been looking like, another thing I was going to talk about before we leave tonight is like, I want you guys to tell me what you want to learn, right? I mean, the purpose of doing this group is to help people learn, people who where I was a year ago or 5 years ago, who want to get to where I am, or, obviously, beyond where we all are as investors. That's the point of this group, is to help network, help facilitate all of our growth as investors and entrepreneurs. And so I wanted to hear from you guys, like, what are you looking to learn? Like, what would be valuable for you? Because I'm happy to set up these specific calls and kind of curtail, whether it's an interview, whether it's kind of a case study, whatever that format needs to be to kind of, be able to help express those different topics. But something I just thought of that would be interesting is if everyone, for like a certain call, we literally get together and everyone brings their favorite real estate book, or, a couple. That way, if we have repeats, we can kind of shift and do like a little mini book report. I know that kind of sounds cheesy, but, like, hey, these are the top 3 things I learned from this book. This is why I recommend it, something like that. If you guys are open to something like that, I think that'd be interesting topic for a call. And I'm sure most of you in here probably read a lot of business and real estate books, like I know I did when I first started. So what do you guys think about that? Would you guys be interested in something like that?
Yeah, I am. I do like the idea.
Yeah.
And
It may only take 20 minutes, and, it could just be a part of a call, but still it's something that might be, beneficial for somebody to hear about books that they may not have heard of.
yeah. Yeah, another thing that comes to mind, Joe, and I don't know if this would be covered like in one of our meetings, or it would be like a
Sure.
YouTube video, but the one YouTube video that you posted, it's been a few weeks now that you walked us through like your one deal, it might have been your first deal.
Yeah.
I thought that was extremely helpful.
Yeah. So like, I mean, if you guys are interested in something like that, I can do a kind of like a live, like a webinar, kind of like where we walk through a deal, and I'll kind of, I can create a presentation to give us something to work off of. But then it would be cool because you guys might have like real live Q&A as we get through it. I think something that's unique about me that most other investors don't have is that I've been so hands-on in the construction phase of all of my properties, and they've all, for anyone who doesn't know me, I mainly have done BRRRR type of properties. And I guess I didn't even cover my thing, but I forgot. But anyway, I'll cover it in a second. But basically, I have a little bit of a different vantage point than I think most investors do, because almost all my properties have been extremely heavy renovations. So I can really focus on not only the investment and the acquisition and all of the actual landlord management type of stuff, but also, from the contractor and construction side. So if that's something you guys are interested in learning more about, I'm happy to do a kind of a webinar or case study on some of those projects we've done. What else do you guys want to talk about? I'm taking notes here, so feel free to shout it out, and I'm happy to schedule these.
I like the idea of walking through a deal, and then also I'd love to hear your take in underwriting, and kind of, Angela, like you said, you're doing that a ton more than I do. That's one area down the road I need to get more well versed at, but I'd love to see kind of methodologies and how you guys kind of approach that.
Sure.
Along with kind of walking through a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do something like that, where we can we'll start from scratch. We'll find a property, and we'll do like a full kind of webinar style underwriting, where you guys can ask questions, give your own, input as to how you do things. And we can kind of, compare and contrast different styles of underwriting. If that's something you guys would be interested in, I'm happy to set that up as well.
Yeah, I'd be interested in learning more about partnerships / lending. I think Sandra mentioned that. And so I've always been curious, about both of those things, partnerships and lendings. Like, I'll research things like syndications, and I think that's a headache. That sounds like way too much. And then, how do you do a JV? How do you do a simple lending agreement that's not overly complicated? really want to do the prefs and the waterfalls, but how do we just keep it understandable so everybody knows what's going on?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I mean, and
Mhm.
I think this could be three different, conversations really. So yeah, I mean, Sandra, would you be interested in presenting to the group how you have set up some of your private lending in the past and, talking a little bit about how you vet your borrowers and structure and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Cool.
My own.
Awesome. Right, we can set that up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll schedule that. Partnerships, yeah. Partnerships is a good one. Yeah, partnerships I love. My last few deals I've done partnerships with, joint venture, so not syndicating, not doing SEC filing, but actually, LLCs and doing equity structure with that. So that's definitely something I could talk about and probably bring in other guests to discuss with as
Mhm.
well.
Joe, and
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, and you know, same along the same lines, I was thinking different financing options, creative financing. I think I was reading a post that you posted on Bigger Pockets months ago, and it might have been your Norwood renovation, the 2 and 4 unit or 2 and 4 bedroom duplex in Norwood, and you talked about some kind of construction commercial loan or something like that, and you were explaining how you structure it or whatever, and I was just like, dang, I mean, there's a lot of the guy's pretty creative, right? So that's something that I don't have a whole lot of experience with, and I would be more interested in learning about more about that.
Okay, awesome. Yep, we can set that up. Anything else that comes to mind? Anything else?
I have one.
Go ahead.
My next step is, like I said, starting to get tenants. So, just I know that there's landmines in that entire side of rentals. So just best practices, and maybe some things that mistakes people may have made in the past that they would advise me to not make.
No, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm happy to same type of deal, do a kind of a webinar. My system is, I think it's pretty simple, but it's been refined for 6 years. But I'm happy to kind of A through Z, like, okay, you did an acquisition, you did a renovation or whatever, and now you're ready to place a tenant, right? That's what you're talking about. So I mean, me and I have a full-time assistant, we self-manage the entire portfolio. And so, we've over the years developed pretty relatively simple systems that anyone can do, and most of them are free. And so that might be its own kind of conversation and walking through that whole process.
And building systems too would be good. How to scale up.
And finding an assistant and that you can trust.
Yeah. It's definitely, hiring employees is probably the hardest part of scaling this business for sure. All right, so real quick, I'll run through mine. I did skip me. Okay, so anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Joe Cornwell. I'm based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Right now I have about 75 doors, over 11 properties, ranging from small multis, and I actually have one single family lease option I just purchased, up to 28 units is my biggest property. So mainly in that small to mid-sized multifamily range is my focus. Like I mentioned, I have a construction company and I'm a real estate agent. So buy and sell investment property, and we do third-party contracting, but also I renovate all of my own properties as well with my company. And the last 6 years, I've done, I guess, 8, 9 heavy burr properties. So, basically from the foundation up type of renovations and everything in between. So that's what I do. My goals this past month were to complete 2 of the 3 renovations on my latest property I bought in Clifton and Cincinnati, Ohio. It's a student rental. And I think one is going to be online next week. And then I'm hoping by the end of the month, the second one's online. So we're still on track. Right now, I've been having a lot of delays with the granite company that's been holding me up. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks after we get the kitchen set until we could get the countertops, which is, delaying things. So I'm actually looking at a new granite vendor just to hopefully speed those timelines up. I'm buying a new primary residence, like I mentioned, and that's going to be another live-in flip. So I've done a live-in flip the last 3 years. And, you know, obviously I'm happy to talk more about that, but you know, I think house hacking and live-in flips are like the two best ways to grow your wealth relatively risk-free. You know, and obviously again, there's that could be it's conversation in and of itself, but that's going to be a lot of my focus right now is the new primary residence, selling my current home, buying a new one. I don't have any current needs from the group. I appreciate you guys all coming, and you know, it's cool to see our group keep growing. And you know, I think we're up to almost 70 members, so it's definitely growing faster than I expected. We've only been doing this for a couple months, so I appreciate you guys. You know, word of mouth and inviting your friends and things like that. It's definitely helped the group grow, and I'm excited to see, you know, building relationships and all the things we can do together. Yeah, no major wins from last meeting. I mean, I guess, you know, the progress on my new house and selling my house has been good. You know, I was a little concerned with this market. I was lucky to sell it quickly. And like I said, I think that's the power of being in a good area, and it's real why it's more important now than ever. Any other questions, comments? Any other topics you want to add to the list that we can discuss in the future? Nothing. All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys joining. So we are back on the 30th, and I will have an announcement. I'll like I said, I'm gonna go through these notes I made, and I'll announce the topic for that discussion, but I will definitely start working on scheduling out these different conversations and webinars that we discussed here, and hopefully bringing in some more, you know, experts to join us in some of these conversations as well. All right, if there's nothing else, I will see you guys on the 30th. And oh, one thing before you leave, I know I mentioned this last time, but please post in the group your goals for the next 30 days. And if they've changed any since the last time, I know a couple of you posted and I appreciate it, but I know a lot of you said you were here for accountability. The best way to hold yourself and each other accountable is to publicly state what you're trying to accomplish. And it doesn't have to be sophisticated. It doesn't have to be, you know, it can be as simple as I'm trying to underwrite, you know, whatever, 5 deals a week for the next 30 days, or I'm trying to, you know, find a private lender for this deal. I'm going to have, you know, one conversation a week with a potential private lender, whatever it is. I don't care what your goals are, but thinking about them, writing them down and posting them publicly is the best way to accomplish them. So please do that and post them in the private group. Cool. Anything else?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
There you
Oh,
are.
sweet. There we go.
Yeah, you
Right
want
at the
to
end.
you want to go real quick?
Yeah, I'll go over my questions real fast.
Sure.
My name's Colby Quigley. I am located in Cincinnati in the Forest Park area. What market's here? I'm looking at anything right now in the greater Cincinnati area. Also keeping an eye back in Utah. That's where I'm from. I just moved here 6 weeks ago. I've been investing for about 3 years now. My current portfolio, I have 2 condos back in Utah and a single family home. My short-term investment goals are, I just bought my primary here about a month ago now. So I'm doing kind of a live-in flip deal. Just doing like basically all carpets, countertops, top to bottom, putting in a fence and stuff like that. And hope to possibly buy another one within the year, maybe October-ish area when it slows down like it does mostly every year, and rent this one out as the game plan. And I'm thinking of doing another live-in flip, but the next one I'd like to do a multifamily, an either house hack and live-in flip, or I don't know, we'll see how that goes. Maybe like a duplex, triplex up to 4, really. Long-term investment goals. Right now it's 1 property a year, whether that be a triplex or fourplex or whatever. I'd really like to get into the multifamily space and gain from this group. Just looking to network and get any ideas, keep up on the market and see what everybody else has going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing. Like I said, guys, our next call is on the 30th, so I will see you all then. If you need anything in the meantime, feel free to reach out. And if not, I'll see you guys then.
Cool.
Thanks,
Good seeing
everybody.